Do you ever meet someone who just doesn't flinch? Chaos around them, opinions thrown at them, pressure building, but their energy still steady, calm. It's not arrogance. It's not detachment. It's power. The kind of power that comes when you stop allowing other people's noise to dictate your peace. That's what being unbothered looks like. And no, it's not something you're born with. It's something you train. And if you don't, life will train you to chase validation, panic over opinions, and break at the sound of rejection. So today, I want to teach you how to train yourself to be unbothered, because that version of you, the one who doesn't flinch, that's not a fantasy, that's a decision. There's a dangerous lie that floats around this conversation of emotional control. This idea that being unbothered means you no longer feel anything, that you just stop caring, that you become some kind of numb, unfeeling robot. And that's not just wrong, it's toxic. Being unbothered doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've stopped letting those feelings drive the car. You feel the sting of disrespect, but you don't respond with chaos. You notice someone trying to push your buttons, but you don't hand them the remote. You hear the criticism, but you don't crumble under it. You still feel it, but instead of reacting impulsively, you respond intentionally. And that distinction is everything, because emotional control isn't suppression, it's strategy. It's recognizing that your power is in the pause. That split-second space between what happens and how you respond, that's where you reclaim your strength. Think about how often we hand our emotions to someone else, like they own them. Someone ghosts you, you spiral. Someone questions your worth, you beg them to see it. But here's the truth. No one can make you feel unworthy unless you let them. Your reactions reveal your training. And if you've never trained yourself to pause, to assess, to choose your response consciously, then you've trained yourself to be reactive, and reactive people are constantly at the mercy of others. So being unbothered is not some magic superpower. It's not about turning off your heart. It's about mastering your mind. It's the decision over and over again to feel without losing yourself in the feeling, to acknowledge pain without building a house inside it, to listen to feedback without letting it become your identity. This is not about being cold. It's about being clear on who you are, on what you stand for, and on what gets to move you. Because the most unbothered people, they're not heartless. They're just not for sale emotionally. Their peace isn't negotiable. Their center isn't up for grabs. And that's what you're building. Not numbness, not apathy, but a rock-solid, self-led center that no storm can shake. What you tolerate teaches people how to treat you. This isn't just a catchy phrase, it's a rule that quietly defines the quality of every relationship in your life. Every time you let someone cross a boundary, make a joke at your expense, cancel plans without explanation, or speak to you in a tone that makes you shrink a little, you are setting a silent precedent. You're telling them what's okay, not through your words, but through your silence. People don't learn your worth by how much you love yourself in private. They learn it by what you allow in public. And when you fail to enforce your boundaries, you send the message that your peace is flexible, your self-respect is negotiable, and your standards are more like suggestions. You train the world on how to engage with you, and if you've trained them through tolerance, don't be surprised when disrespect becomes the norm. But here's the thing. Most people don't struggle with setting boundaries. They struggle with keeping them. They set them in a moment of strength, but when met with pressure, guilt, or the fear of being alone, they bend. And that bending becomes a habit. You excuse the bad behavior because you hope it's temporary. You stay quiet because you don't want to seem difficult. You say yes when your soul is screaming no, and that pattern over time erodes your peace. Suddenly you're living a life where you're constantly firefighting drama, fixing other people's messes, or over-explaining your value to people who should have seen it the first time. Being unbothered isn't just about ignoring noise. It's about never allowing the noise to enter your space in the first place. Boundaries are what keep your peace from becoming collateral damage. And yes, it can feel scary at first. You'll lose people when you start honoring yourself. Some will call you cold, others will say you've changed, but that's because your tolerance once served their comfort, not your dignity. When you raise your standards, the ones who benefited from your silence will be the loudest to protest. But that protest is not your problem. Your job is not to make everyone comfortable with your growth. Your job is to make your life a place where peace, respect, and emotional safety are the baseline, not the exception. So when someone treats you in a way that makes you question your worth, remember this: the first time is data, the second time is a decision. You are not powerless. You are not at the mercy of other people's moods, patterns, or emotional immaturity. You get to decide what energy is allowed near you. And that decision, when made consistently, is what turns you into someone who radiates composure, not because your life is perfect, but because you've chosen not to invite chaos into your front door. The most unbothered people aren't untouched by the world. They're just crystal clear on what they'll never again tolerate from it. Emotional resilience is a trained skill, not a personality trait. A lot of people walk around thinking that some individuals are just born tougher, born calmer, born more stable. That's the illusion. Emotional strength isn't in your DNA, it's in your daily habits. It's built, not gifted. You don't just wake up one day with thick skin and a balanced heart. You earn it through moments that challenge your peace, test your self-worth, and force you to decide whether to react out of fear or respond from strength. The difference between someone who crumbles at the first sign of rejection and someone who moves forward with grace isn't luck, it's reps. Just like a muscle, your ability to handle emotional weight grows every time you lift it. Resilience starts in the little things. It's in how you respond to a passive-aggressive comment instead of letting it ruin your day. It's in how you stay grounded when someone criticizes your work instead of spiraling into self-doubt. It's in how you handle a no, a delay, a disappointment without letting it redefine your future. Every time you stay centered when it would be easier to lash out or shut down, you're teaching yourself that your emotional state belongs to you, not to the circumstances around you. But emotional training isn't glamorous. It often looks like sitting with uncomfortable feelings and choosing not to numb them. It's having hard conversations you'd rather avoid. It's learning to self-soothe when your first instinct is to call someone else for validation. It's being okay with not getting closure, not being understood, and still deciding to protect your peace. That's the behind the scenes work. And most people skip it because it doesn't provide instant gratification. But the ones who stick with it, they become unshakable, not because their life is smooth, but because their inner world is no longer ruled by chaos. You can tell who's done the work. You can see it in how they hold themselves, and how they don't take everything personally, and how they respond to pressure, not with panic, but with presence. These are the people who know how to breathe through discomfort, speak through fear, and choose their values over their impulses. And they weren't born this way. They trained for it. Every heartbreak, every setback, every betrayal, they used it as a chance to grow stronger, not colder. So if you find yourself reacting, spiraling, doubting, feeling overwhelmed by what life throws at you, that's okay, but don't stay there. Don't tell yourself this is just who you are. Emotional resilience is not about being unaffected. It's about recovering faster, about bouncing back higher, about choosing to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. It's a decision you make every day to build the emotional muscle that keeps you grounded when the world tries to pull you off center. And that decision, when practiced consistently, will turn you into someone who isn't just surviving life's storms, but moving through them with intention, clarity, and power. The need for validation is the gateway to losing your center. It's one of the most subtle but powerful ways we give our peace away. Seeking permission to feel worthy, attractive, successful, or lovable based on how others see us. And at first it feels harmless. Someone compliments you and your confidence spikes. Someone criticizes you and your mood plummets. Slowly, without realizing it, your self-worth becomes a puppet, and everyone else is holding the string. This is the trap of external validation. You're not just living your life, you're performing it, constantly scanning the room for approval, constantly adjusting yourself to fit into spaces you were never meant to belong in. When your self-esteem is built on how people respond to you, you'll never feel stable. You'll always be chasing the compliment, chasing the like, chasing the reply. And even when you get it, it won't satisfy you for long because it's not rooted in something real. It's rooted in a version of yourself that you feel you have to maintain in order to be accepted. And the moment someone doesn't mirror the response you want, you crumble. You question yourself. You wonder what you did wrong. That's the cost of needing validation. You outsource your sense of identity to people who may not even truly see you. Training yourself to be unbothered means returning your power back to yourself. It's about recognizing when you're fishing for validation and pausing to ask, what part of me feels unseen right now? What part of me is trying to prove something? Because the most grounded people you'll ever meet, they're not driven by applause. They're driven by alignment. They don't need you to agree with them for them to believe in what they're doing. They don't need a cheering section to walk confidently. They've built an internal compass so clear that even when the outside world goes quiet, they still know which direction to go. It's not that they don't like compliments or appreciation, they just don't depend on them. They're not chasing proof, they're living from truth. And that's a huge shift because once you stop seeking permission, you start experiencing freedom. You stop bending your personality to win people's favor. You stop watering yourself down to avoid judgment. You stop hustling for acceptance and start honoring your authenticity. To reach that level of inner security, you have to break the addiction to approval. That means doing the right thing even if no one claps. Speaking your truth even if it shakes. Showing up fully even if it makes others uncomfortable. You stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, do I like how I showed up? And when that becomes your focus, something powerful happens. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because people are drawn to those who don't need to be liked to feel at peace. That's not arrogance. That's ownership. And it's the heartbeat of what it means to be truly unbothered. People's opinions are not your reality. That's easy to say when you're feeling confident, but what about those moments when someone misjudges you? When they label you unfairly, question your choices, or reduce you to one bad day? That's when the line between their perception and your truth starts to blur. You start doubting yourself. You start rehearsing their words in your head like a script you never asked for. And that's how it begins, giving their voice more power than your own. But here's the truth. No one sees the full story of you. They see fragments, moments, snapshots, and they build an opinion based on what little they know. But that opinion, it's not the final word. It's not a mirror. It's a projection. And if you internalize every projection, you'll lose touch with your core. The problem isn't that people have opinions. They always will. The problem is when you treat those opinions like facts, when you start editing yourself just to fit into their narrative, when you shrink your light to avoid being misunderstood, when you silence your voice because someone once called it too much. You begin to forget who you are, not because you've changed, but because you've allowed someone else to narrate your story. And that's the fastest way to live a life that doesn't feel like your own. Training yourself to be unbothered is about reclaiming the authorship of your identity. You don't argue with every criticism. You don't defend yourself to every skeptic. You don't fight to be seen by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you ground yourself in what you know. You build such a strong sense of self that other people's commentary feels like background noise. There, but not directing your actions. It's not about being indifferent. It's about choosing discernment. Not every opinion deserves a seat at your table. Not every voice should echo in your mind. You can respect someone's right to have an opinion without surrendering your truth to it. The key is not to convince others you're enough. It's to live